Congratulations! You made it! The Cardinals season has mercifully come to an end, and the Cardinals finished under 500 for only the second time in the John Mozeliak era. Too bad both of those seasons were two of the last three. As we prepare to say goodbye to Mo and to the 2025 season, we'll break down the latest about the offseason plans and give out our team superlatives on this edition of the Viva Albertos podcast.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
Breeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
This is the Viva Albertos podcast on SB Nation.
Hello and welcome into another episode of the Viva Albertos podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jake Wood, and I am joined tonight by writers Gabe Simons and Scott Plaza and site manager Heather Simon. Gabe, 3 shows in a row, man. In the movie Major League, that's a winning streak. This has happened before.
Yeah, I mean, it just has to do with the fact that it's picnic season, so I have to be up early in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays.
And not only is Gabe here, but we have another long gone face rejoining us tonight, Mr. Scott Plaza, Mr. Plastastic himself, man. How you doing? Happy to have you back.
I am so happy to be back. It's that crazy time of year. I'm a teacher. We're in like the thick of it with school-wise and Friday night football and things like that. So my evenings have been kind of booked up with that along with 2 kids, but I'm glad to be back after a little bit of distraction from this last month of Cardinals baseball.
Well, Mr. Plastastic, we're certainly here and hoping that you school us on some of your thoughts tonight.
Oh.
Ha And Miss Steady and Consistent, Miss Heather Simon, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I'm here.
We're happy you're here. So let's jump into it, guys. Recently, multiple beat writers reported that Sonny Gray is open to waiving his no-trade clause in order to facilitate a trade to a contending team this offseason. Reports also indicate that Nolan Arenado is prepared to expand his list of teams and be more flexible and open-minded as both of these veterans see the writing on the wall of what's to come this upcoming, rebuild session that the Cardinals are headed towards. What are your guys' thoughts on what this means for 2026 and beyond? And Scott, since it's been the longest since we've heard from you, I'll let you kind of go first on this.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, the Sonny Gray news to me was not very surprising. Especially it was more surprising that he didn't want to be moved at this trade deadline. But then as soon as you kind of read into it and the fact he's like, I don't want to uproot my family during the season again, it seemed like he was going to always kind of go this route at the end of this season anyway, especially as it's, the second consecutive missed year of the playoffs since he's been here. So I don't think it's too surprising. I think we're going to see a lot of what Heimblum's plans are with his decision on Sonny Gray, hopefully pretty quickly. And then he can kind of turn his attention to Arenado. And then I think by what he gives up and what he gets in return, we'll start to signal what he's looking to do this offseason.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. Back at winter warmup, Sonny Gray had kind of told us, he wasn't entirely convinced yet that this team could not still contend. And, after experiencing this season and watching 3 veterans get traded away at the deadline again, and the Cardinals are now going to finish under 500, like I said, in the open, second time in 3 years, I think what has now become apparent to all of us as fans is now kind of seeping into the clubhouse. Like, it's not going to happen. We need to kind of, start over and build this thing back up. Gabe, your thoughts on the news about Sonny being willing to waive his no trade clause, and if you want to rehash the Nolan Arenado thing.
Okay, well, I do have some, I guess, questions, which is that I don't know how much trade value Sonny Gray has, and then we're completely decimating the pitches. I know we're not like quote unquote competing next year, but I don't know who's going to be in the rotation next year. So, and especially if they trade him, so that worries me a lot. And I don't feel like the return is going to be worth it. And I don't think the Cardinals are going to throw in enough money to make it worth it, to make the prospect return worth it. So that's where I stand with Sonny Gray thing. And then I also have questions about Nolan Arenado, as in who's going to try to get him, because I don't think it's going to be a good team. And also, I assume we basically have to throw in all the money, which is fine. But I don't know. I'm interested to see where they get traded, if they get traded, because I don't know what kind of return Sonny Gray is looking at, especially if the Cardinals are trying to save as much money as possible. And I don't know who is trading for Nolan Arenado. Personally, I just don't.
Yeah, you raise a really good point in the fact that like money is going to be a gigantic motivator in this whole thing. And I think it's important to kind of keep contextualized like the fact that the Cardinals lost 25% this past offseason on their TV revenue, like their contract with FanDuel. They experienced 1 million less fans than they had in previous seasons. So like those things to be considered, not an excuse for spending less, but certainly a somewhat of a justification of why they are trimming back payroll. And Jeff Jones had it in his tweet that, the Cardinals are currently scheduled to have $80 million on the books next season. And that is tied into all three of the veteran no trade clause players. Heather, I'm going to throw it over to you for this question. Do you think that if both Gray and Arenado leave, that Willson Contreras would be willing to move to a contender as well?
Well, it's an interesting question because I believe Willson Contreras is has notably said that he came here to win and they haven't done that yet, and he doesn't feel like right leaving without doing what he came here to do. And normally I would kind of say, well, that's just what something people say. Willson Contreras, though, strikes me as the kind of guy who, when he says something, he says it with his whole chest. he he means it. He means that kind of thing. So
He stands on business.
I
That's it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm inclined to believe him when he says, "No, I'm not going anywhere until this team wins or something else happens to me," like a hell or high water sort of thing. So, I it's I'd be a little surprised just because of that sort of view I have of him, or opinion I have of him, or whatever the word I'm trying to think of is.
Sure. I guess to play a little bit of devil's advocate with what you're saying is, we've also heard in the past that Nolan Arenado and Sonny Gray were both somewhat hesitant or resistant to the idea of moving on. And do you think perhaps now that both of those who are more of his peer in a veteran leadership role, now that they're saying, we really don't think there's anything here to contend for, that perhaps he changes his mind? Do you think that perhaps that could sway his opinion at all?
I wouldn't blame him for changing his
For
mind,
sure.
but he just doesn't strike me, and I obviously don't know him personally, but everything that I've seen about him does not strike me as the kind of guy that is gonna say something and then not do it. He
Absolutely.
seems kind of stubborn that way. I mean that as a compliment because it's a very respectable thing to say something and then commit to what you say, but he doesn't strike me as the type of person that does anything, that backs out because stuff gets, because things change. So I wouldn't blame him, but I just don't, just because he said that, that's the only reason why. Otherwise, I would say absolutely. But because he specifically said that, I feel like he is going to follow through on that. Just
Also,
based on
surely
what
the
it seems like.
Cardinals are going to spend money on something this next year, right? Like their payroll shouldn't be like 20 million. Am I like
Right.
Right.
they're going to spend it on like I don't think the payroll is going to be high to be clear, but I think like it's not going to be like the Rays when they're or just well maybe it will be like the Rays because they're like 100 million now, aren't they? But you know what I mean? Like it's not like when a team is rebuilding and they are cheap already. I don't feel like there's going to be like 20 to 30 million. That would be absurd. Good luck in any fans if that's the case.
Yeah. Gabe, I did want to get your opinion on that, though, in regards to Willson Contreras, because you do a pretty good job, in my opinion, of kind of evaluating, player value and kind of what you think they would be able to get. Do you think that Willson Contreras would be somebody who would have, a lot more of an attraction to him to contending teams than perhaps a Willson Contreras or a Nolan Arenado? My apologies.
Yes, I haven't looked at the contending teams and who needs a first baseman. But yeah, I think he would actually have a prospect we're trading for in theory. So that I would get trading Willson Contreras just because I don't know, they could maybe get like I don't know, like a 45 maybe. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I haven't done the math on it or whatever, but I feel like Contreras should have actual trade value. If you kick in some money, you can get a decent prospect, I think,
Right.
which they should do, especially if they don't plan to go crazy in free agency. But I think you would even get a semi-interesting prospect if the other team just took on his whole contract.
A,
That's where my opinion on his trade value is.
Yeah, a couple teams that I think that could make some sense that would have this kind of existing hole would be like Washington. I think they could use a right-handed bat to kind of put behind James Wood in the middle of that lineup, and I think he would fit really well there as kind of a. They're a lot further along than the Cardinals are, where they have established guys like James Wood, like I mentioned, and a C.J. Abrams, and they've got like Brady House coming along and Dylan Cruz, and so they've got some pieces to work with there. So like I think if you added a Willson Contreras, that would just help them take that next step forward as well.
I don't know if he's waiving his no trade clause for a 65 win team though. They won 65 games this past season.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they also are willing to invest in the pitching market as well, so like that's the biggest issue with Washington really is they have no pitching outside of Mackenzie Gore. So if they're also willing to continue to augment, and we've seen in the past they're not afraid of spending big money. So if they are willing to go out there and spend some money on some pitching and solidify that side of the ball, I can see how a Willson Contreras would fit in really nicely with Washington. I also think Boston makes a lot of sense. There's no telling who's the first baseman that went down with a really bad knee injury.
Cassis?
Yeah, there's no telling how what Cassis will be when he comes back, and whether or not that he could. The thing is that Contreras can also DH, and him and Cassis can kind of flip back and forth between that. And so I think that Boston could make some sense as well. They're also fairly left-handed heavy, so that right-handed kind of balance and presence would make some sense. But that's just a couple teams that come to mind just off the top of the head that could be in a first baseman market. Scott, I'll throw it over to you since we haven't really gotten your thoughts on the Willson Contreras of it all. What if you were Willson Contreras, would you be wanting out too if you heard Nolan Arenado and Sonny Gray saying, "Yeah, I'm out of here, man"?
That's a great question to when you put it like into my point of view as a player at that point. I kind of side with Heather that he's gonna kind of stand by his word. He's kind of said like, yeah, I'm comfortable here. I came here to do a job, and he's already won, I think is one of the quotes he's also said as well. So it's not like he's out there seeking that championship. I personally, if that was me, besides the fact I'd be playing for my favorite team of all time growing up, I would probably, to your point, I would think Washington would actually be a fun place to go to kind of they're on that up and up, even though they've only won 65 games. They have, like you're saying, the pieces where they have the offense to build, to support with the pitching staff beyond Mackenzie Gore. So if that was me, if I was Willson Contreras, I would at least feel better about the direction there as opposed to who knows what the heck this next season is going to look like in St. Louis.
Sure. I mean, I just, Miami would be another place. They're on the up and up. They've got the pitching. There's young talent starting to emerge, and I'm pretty sure Willson Contreras lives in Miami in the off season. So I think that, that could be somewhere else that could be attracted to him. Again, just spitballing some ideas out there. We have really no idea. Katie Wu did confirm that Willson Contreras is with the team this weekend, and he intends to speak. So I think we'll get an answer on kind of where his head is at some point this weekend when they're in Chicago. So it's kind of TBD to see there. The good news about this conversation is that we will get some sort of finality to whether or not they get moved this offseason, because there comes an ending to the offseason. So we will get some answers on that, but a very fun conversation to kind of kick around as most Cardinal fans or Cardinals-based shows are doing at this juncture. Because
the point I want to make, by the way, is that Contreras does have a ring, and I don't think the other two do. That could matter. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he's one
I
of
know he's
those
still like
guys that is so competitive. I can't see him just being satisfied with just one, right? Like I can see him still wanting to get another one and prove that he can do it and be a part of it again. You know what I'm saying? Like the ultimate goal every year is to get to the World Series. I don't know that he's necessarily someone that has gotten the ring, gotten the money, and is just going to sit on it. Like he doesn't seem like that kind of guy to me, at least in the interaction that I had with him.
But you're suggesting trades to like the Marlins and Nationals, and I don't think he has a great shot at a ring there, at least in the early years. So I just don't feel like he's turned down his no trade clause for that.
Well, I think he would have a better shot than he would in St. Louis, where they're going in the opposite direction and tearing it down. Like at least those teams have players that are starting to establish themselves and are steps further ahead that Willson Contreras might fit into their timeline a little bit better.
But trading like Arenado, for example, doesn't change anything in my opinion. He's kind of just well past his prime. Sonny Gray, sure, but Arenado, I mean, I don't think that's. I mean, maybe he'll make the Hall of Fame. I don't think that's a loss for the 2026 team at all.
I would be fine one way or another, but the way they've been setting it up and like the going out of their way to make sure that he had that little send off at the end of the season, like the last home game last week, tells me that they've pretty well made up their mind that they'll do just about whatever it takes to facilitate a trade for him. Or, I mean, heaven forbid they just allow him to walk for nothing. I don't know. But obviously we're going to find out a lot more on Tuesday whenever Chaim Bloom and the DeWitts do their end of season press conference. But just kind of, we're going to transition because we've got quite a few superlatives to hand out for the season. I think fans will enjoy this conversation just as well. We're going to talk team MVP, team Cy Young, reliever of the year, rookie of the year, most improved, and biggest disappointment. We're going to do this pretty rapid fire and go through this pretty quickly, so as to not bore you with long drawn out answers that we could have surmised in 2 or 3 sentences. So I will go in a same kind of pattern rotation just so everyone kind of gets the idea. Gabe, I'm going to throw it over to you. Team MVP, go.
Team MVP, I'm going to give it to Ivan Herrera for being the best hitter on the team. And although he didn't get as many plate appearances as he could have because of injuries, I think he made up for it when he was healthy. So that Ivan Herrera, easy pick for me.
Perfect. Heather, team MVP for you.
Yep, I'm going with Ivan Herrera too. Despite the injuries, he was the best hitter and adapted to being a DH. Good for him.
Scott Plaza, team MVP.
Willson Contreras, the aforementioned.
Oh wow! Here's the homer pick. What are we doing here?
Hey, he won me some money, but
okay, that's fair. All right, you know what? That's right.
Doubles, career high in RBIs. He changed positions to accommodate for the team. He was their vocal and fiery leader. Most valuable player goes to Willson.
I guess the saying that good teams win, great teams cover. Does that apply to great players as well?
100%.
My team MVP is going to be Brendan Donovan, all-star player, the lone all-star representative for the team. He did have that lull in the middle of the season when he was, for some strange reason, because he's such a gigantic competitor, that he pushed through the injuries, but that also is kind of a testament to the type of leader that he is, and it is once again was the all-star representative, and I think that when healthy, he was the most impactful offensive player, not named Ivan Herrera, but I felt his impact just a smidge more because of his leadership than Ivan Herrera. Gabe, over to you. We'll go with Team Cy Young.
I mean, Sonny Gray. I mean, there's not many great options here. Maybe you can go with a different pick just for like surprise or something, and Sonny Gray was a little bit of a disappointment, but he was still the best pitcher.
I am quite shocked you didn't go with Eric Fetty. Heather, Team Cy Young.
I'm just going to keep copying Gabe. I have Sonny Gray. He's the most durable starter.
Have an original thought, Heather. Come on.
Look, if I can just keep copying what Gabe said, now I'll have to think.
You'll sound pretty smart. Yeah, it's a good process.
But no, he held the rotation together. This hodgepodge of pitchers. So I feel like that's the choice.
Absolutely. No, it's a great choice. Scott, your team Cy Young.
Continue on, Sonny Gray.
All right. It's Sonny Gray. That was an easy one.
Unanimous.
I tried to come up with an argument elsewhere. and
Yeah,
just
I was
couldn't even
like,
put the effort in.
if it was like up to May, I would have probably gone Matthew Liberatore, but because we had the full body of work, it was pretty much no contest. Sonny Gray. Gabe, reliever of the year for you.
I will go with I think Matt Svanson because he was here mostly the whole year. He ended up throwing 58 innings, so he's basically here the whole year, even though he was in the minors for parts of it.
Correct.
2.02 ERA. I mean, hopefully that's a little bit for real because then we got a really good reliever for next season.
Yeah, for sure. Matt Swan, I think they're going to be. This is more fun than the Cy Young conversation because there could be multiple options in this this category. Heather, your reliever of the year.
I'm going with Jojo Romero.
There you go. Contrarian, look at you go.
Yeah, different one. I know. Well, when Gabe didn't say it, I was like, "Uh-oh, did he even pitch on the team this year?" Am I
Take
making
that, Gabe.
I think he closed out some games after Halsey was traded. He has a sub-3 ERA, decent strikeout rate.
Finish the season as a closer. Yeah, it's a great pick. Yeah, that's why I said there you could go with multiple options. Scott, your reliever of the year.
Well, I was going to copy one of the two, but I'm going to add a third name in just to make you the final decision maker.
Oh, no.
I'm going to go with Kyle Leahy just because of the body of work that he did, covering 85 innings, filling different roles, minus a midseason lull from where he was just used and abused. He still put up a low 3 ERA and just was someone that you could count on and led the bullpen in WAR, I believe, as well.
Wow. Okay. I guess that we have 4 different answers because I'm going with Phil Maton as the reliever of the year.
Oh, okay.
At a $2.5 million bargain, the only free agent that John Mozeliak signed this only major league free agent that John Mozeliak signed this offseason was an absolute hit. Led the team in strikeout percentage, was at 33%, which is top 5 in all of the National League at the time whenever he was traded. I believe he had an ERA that was either at 2 or just under. I mean, the dude was absolute nails. He didn't throw any harder than 88, 89 miles an hour, and it didn't matter. Guys were just swinging over the top of everything and looking silly as all hell. Phil Maton, and if the Cardinals wanted to go out and bring you back again at more of a market rate, I'd totally sign up for that for another season. Gabe, your rookie of the year.
My rookie of the year is I did not prepare for this question. I get because I suppose I would have to pick Thomas Ajacey.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, like I said, there's not that many great options. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say when I say mine, you're gonna be like that I should have done that. So keep going.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see. But yeah, Thomas Ajacey, who got off to kind of a rough start, but I think has really turned it on in the last couple months, and he's probably geared himself to make the major league team next year out of spring training and maybe have probably a similar role this year. Quite honestly, he'll get 400 plate appearances. So yeah, I would Thomas Ajacey.
Heather, your rookie of the year.
I was checking to see if Ivan Herrera was rookie eligible this year, but I don't think he was.
He's not.
So I'm going to go with Victor Scott.
He's not a
I believe. I think he was still rookie eligible.
He's not a rookie?
I think if 83 days is too many days, I think.
How many days does he have?
Yeah, they mismanaged him
Oh,
last
no.
year.
We have a disparity.
Okay, hold on. Let me go with
Justice for Heather.
I would pick Scott, by the way.
I got more. I'll just keep picking people until I find
That's fine.
a rookie. What about Pedro Baez?
He's not a rookie either.
What? How?
He was on the team for too long last season.
Yeah.
Gosh dang it. I just don't
I
remember
found
any
the
of
player you're
this.
going to talk about, I think. So.
Okay,
You think so?
That's my. Someone else go. I'm done
Scott.
talking. I give up. I don't want.
Okay,
I don't
I
want to
know
answer
this person
anymore. I
is a
refuse.
rookie, so at least I got that ahead. I'm going with Matt Swanson.
No, he took mine. Oh.
I knew it. He came up as like a quick like 27th man in a doubleheader, went up and down a couple times, but he's just been an awesome, awesome piece that, as volatile as bullpens could be, I think we can count on him for next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Gabe, like you should have just rolled over reliever of the year to rookie of the year, because
I have a new pick, by the way.
you what?
Michael McGreevy.
Oh,
That's my pick.
that's a good pick. But for Matt Swanson, like you, just to kind of lament again what you said, 58 innings, and didn't really have an established spot until June, and so like to do what he's done and at the efficacy of which he's done it, is quite impressive. And for that reason, I think that he's well established himself as a leverage arm going into 2026. And he's my pick for rookie of the year. Gabe, most improved player this season, in your opinion?
Most improved player this season. I do not like being first right now at this point. I would say, well, actually, this might be, I don't know if this is controversial. I'm going with Victor Scott. Because he was, I don't think people remember how bad he was last year. He had a decent September, but last year he batted 179 in 53 games. His defense wasn't as good as we were hoping. And this year his bat is elevated to, I know, still bad, but playable for sure, especially with how good his defense and base running is. His defense is at least graded out as one of the best defenders in baseball. Center field
defense is really good.
Yep.
And he by wins above replacement, they improved by 2.1 wins, which is a playing time issue partially. But if he played all of last year, it would have been a bit bigger because he would have been more negative WAR. So Victor Scott's my pick.
I guess we should hope for that his bat takes just as big of a leap as his defense did next season. Heather, your most improved player this year?
I guess I'll go with Alec Burleson.
That's a great
I don't really
pick.
know if he's necessarily more improved, but I think he's got more consistent playing time. So you got to see, more of what he can do. At least I did. So that's who I'm going with.
Yeah, so I thought it was one of the players that I had kind of considered. One of the big knocks on Alec Burleson last season was the fact that he kind of only had one good half season, and the other half he fell off. This season, I believe his first half he was accredited with like a 115 WRC plus, and when I looked at it, at least as I recall back in early September, he was at a 118 for the second half of the season. So he continued to carry it through to the second half of the season as well. So put together a full year. I think he's really established himself and in the ability to be a middle of the order hitter. And I think that he's doing a tremendous job of increasing his ability to control the strike zone as a hitter. And so those are the kind of things that you wanted to see him take a step forward. In the corner outfield, I know that Gabe absolutely hates watching him, and he's not alone. I know there are a lot of other people that do not like him as a corner outfielder. He was a 0 or -1 in both corner outfields this year. So he was roughly league average. He's still slow. I get it, but he does enough, just enough not to hurt you, but maybe he doesn't do enough to help you in a way that perhaps a more refined outfielder would. Scott, your most improved player this year?
Just copy and paste what you just said about Burleson, kind of right there, because
I need to stop talking.
because we saw him be more aggressive at the plate, with just swinging at more pitches, which he actually ended up walking more than last year, even with that new approach. But hitting 293. And then his WRC plus went from 106 to 127. And I agree that his defense has improved. So I think just all together with the increase in consistent playing time, putting together both halves, he is my pick for most improved.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with Alec Burleson. I could have made an argument for Ivan Herrera as well. Last season, the last season he homered on April 24th and then didn't hit another home run until I believe it was September. And so just to see the big uptick in power and the health and being available and playing more consistently and just his bat developing to a point where he is like one of the 20 top bats in the game, I think at this point is fair to say. And so Ivan Herrera took a big step forward, but I think Burley's game all the way around took the biggest step forward, so I would call him most improved. Gabe, your biggest disappointment for 2025?
Jordan Walker. Didn't even need to look that one up.
Didn't catch you off
easily.
guard that time.
No, I mean, yeah. When I saw that one earlier, I was like, I mean, I'll be surprised if you guys have a different pick. I'll be honest.
I do.
He actually got worse. Really, he actually got worse from last season, which I didn't think was going to happen. His defense did improve to still quite bad, as we kind of saw a little bit. What was it, Wednesday when he dropped the fly ball? But it did improve, and hopefully it improves a little bit more in AAA next season. But yeah, I mean, he struck out almost 32% of the time. When he was coming up, I didn't even know he had strikeout problems, and now he can't stop striking out. So yeah, he's my biggest disappointment easily.
Heather, your biggest disappointment this year?
I don't know if this is a disappointment, but like necessarily in the spirit of the question, but I have Nolan Arenado just because he kind of was injured, and I would have really liked, especially since we kind of got the feeling that this might be the tail end of his time with the Cardinals. I really wanted something like exciting and didn't get it. I wish he could have went out on top in a way. So that's what I got.
I believe since he came back, he's got at least 10 plus RBIs. So like he is showing an ability to be productive, even if he only has one home run, which is still fine. I think he's shown enough to teams that he's healthy. There will be a modicum of interest around the league, if not, something that somebody will take on 10, $15 million of him for 2 seasons and call it good at third base and then hit him 8th in the lineup of a contending team. I don't see any reason why a team wouldn't consider that. Scott, your biggest disappointment?
All right, I'm going to soapbox for a minute, so bear with me. I'm going to first but explain why Jordan Walker was not my biggest disappointment, and that's because he would have been that choice last year.
You son of a gun. If you take my pick, I'm going to be so upset.
So I'm not done cheating yet. So I'm already just arguing against that he was already a disappointment last year. So therefore, while I was still absolutely extremely disappointed, I can't say that I was totally surprised. I'm gonna do a 1A and a 1B, and if you hate it, you have to kick me off and mute me. But I'm sticking with it. My first one is Ryan Fernandez because I really thought he was going to be that bullpen option after last year that could have fortified and filled some roles, and we wouldn't have had to seen so much Chris Roycroft at the start of the year. I'm just thinking back while my wife was in labor for our second child, and I'm watching Chris Roycroft. That's just bad memories on my own. But my actual choice for most disappointing is Andre Palante.
Damn it!
So again, I had to cheat just because I wanted to get those two out in front of me, but I'm going with Palante. Again, I didn't have high expectations, but to be winless for months, the 0-10, I believe, in those 11 starts or something like that, 13 starts, he just didn't do anything well besides eat those innings.
Well, Scott, you've put me into a corner and I don't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to change the rules to move the goalpost because it's the only way that's fair to me. I'm going to go with the starting rotation as a whole was the biggest disappointment to me. For lack of a better term, they were all poop outside of Sonny Gray. Michael McGreevy has done, an acceptable job. Matthew Liberatore has had his moments, but it's been pretty up and down. Again, we can massage that part of it away. But when you talk about Miles Michaelis, Andre Palante, and Eric Fetty, that is where you lost your season. Point blank, period, end of story. There were too many starts where they're out of it by the second or third inning because these guys either can't locate or have no idea where what pitch to throw and what count at what time that's going to be most effective against a hitter. And it was so clear, obvious, and abundant that they just were not the caliber of a playoff contender because you're running those 3 guys out 3 out of every 5 days. So when the math isn't mathing, it's obvious that 2 out of 5 starts is not going to get you where you want to go. So from that aspect, I'm gonna just kind of ramble on and say that, the rotation as a whole, very, very disappointing. And you go back the last 3 years or so, it's just kind of, if there's one thing, and I'll throw this around to you guys as well, and we'll kind of end on this. If there's one thing that you hope that Chaim Bloom changes this offseason or most positively, affects, what would it be? And we'll go in reverse order. So I'll start with Scott and end with Gabe on this one.
I'm gonna kind of rehash the conversation we were texting about the other day, and I know, Jake, you said it's kind of anti what Chaim Bloom does, but I want to see some aggression with pitching prospects. We see it everywhere else around the league about a 20-year-old, 22-year-old, someone jumping from double A to the majors, making their major league debut, and just throwing absolute gas and just learning how to pitch kind of at the major league level. I want to see just some more aggression, especially because we have no clue whatsoever what the rotation is going to look like. I want to see if our prospects are going to actually pan out, or if we we need to revamp the pitching system altogether.
And I think there would have been, so like, we can have this conversation. I think there would be a greater opportunity for that had guys like Tink Hence and TK Roby not gotten hurt, or a Cooper Jerpy or a Sim Robersa. Like, you go down the line of all of the pitching injuries that happened to the guys that had the highest upside at the highest points of the minor league level for the Cardinals. And like, all of those arms got hurt. And so none of them took the necessary steps forward. None of them are going to be even remotely a factor in 2026. And so that also factors into why I think that they're going to be a lot more hesitant to promote, young guys a lot more aggressively, because then you're talking about guys who just finished at double A. And while they probably should have been promoted to triple A, they didn't. And so now they're going to have to go through that process of adjusting to the major league ball when they get to triple A as well. So I do anticipate them having a little bit of a setback or a transition period getting used to that major league ball at triple A. Now, if we want to talk about like trade deadline and second half of the season, I think there's a greater chance to see more arms, younger arms come up to the major leagues. But at the outset of 2026, I expect there to be some depth and fillers kind of, holding down the rotation until we get to that point where new leadership is convinced that these guys are ready for that next step.
Well, and I just want to touch, and you said depth and fillers. I know you're talking to the major league rotation, but we heard many times that McGreevy wasn't up at a major league level because they needed depth at AAA. And Curtis Taylor, sorry, Jake didn't get his chance. And Aaron Wilkerson were those depth holders. So I just don't want to hear about somebody staying in AAA because they are more valuable to the AAA rotation, is kind of more of where I'm thinking
for sure. And if that's the argument, then I'll be right there along with you to criticize that. But if it's a matter of them literally not being ready for the next step, sure, I don't want to just throw them into a situation where they're not set up ready to succeed.
Fair.
Heather, what are you hoping that Chaim Bloom most influences this offseason?
So I know, like, and this is, being sort of like an outsider coming in, he can afford to do this more too, where he's more surgical with his like roster retooling. And I'm a sentimental girly, so I get like the sentiment behind not wanting to like turn a roster over and move on from underperforming veterans and stuff like that. Like, I get that. And so I don't want to say I hope that he does things like that. But I do think something that the Cardinals could benefit more from is being more decisive, and making a more clear
path
identity.
Okay, yeah.
They don't really have an identity. They're not even a rebuilding team. Like we've kind of joked about it in the off season where they're retooling or they're whatever the word it was, transitioning or something. So that they didn't even want to commit to the rebuild, and they didn't want to commit to improving necessarily. And I think that's where a lot of like the fatigue from fans has come in, is that I just don't know, like, I never know what I'm going to get from this team. I have a hard time rooting for like you can root for the game to game, but I have a hard time with like I need an overarching plot. Like
Sure.
I just need some plot so I know where the story is headed, you know?
Yeah.
I want to be able to root for these characters and I can't because I don't know what they're doing.
No, it totally makes sense. Gabe, what are you hoping that Chaim Bloom does to affect the roster or just the organization as a whole the most?
Well, I think this is honestly my thing that I hope he does differently. I think is more of a build the wit thing, but nonetheless, I have to say I wish he starts focusing on elite free agents instead of just keep getting the mid tier guys.
Sure.
And the reason I say I think that's more of a build the wit thing is because he has to approve the contracts,
For sure.
and I suspect he isn't approving the Kyle Tuckers and the Bryce Harper kind of deals. So I don't really think that's going to change. But I don't want them to be signing like Dexter Fowler and Mike Leake and those kind of contracts. I think if we're going to spend money and if you're going to be smart about when you spend money, you got to go with the elite guys. And by the way, I have a good superlative when you're answer your question there, Jake.
Okay. So my hope is that, I guess this kind of harkens back to last offseason too, but not only picking a direction, but I echo what I think a lot of fans really want, and it is I want some bold action, right? I want them to take a chance. I want them to, even if it doesn't work out, even if it fails spectacularly and they end up like dumping a can of gasoline on themselves and setting themselves on fire. Like, I don't care if it fails that spectacularly. I want them to go out and try and do something. I am so sick and tired of the gridlock and the hand wringing and just like hoping to not make a mistake. What if you actually luck yourself into like a good like franchise moving direction or move, right? So I want Chaim Bloom to use this first year as the point man in charge to use it as coverage to go out and do something bold. Get fans talking about something other than the Cardinals cutting payroll. Get fans talking about something other than, oh, just the same old mediocre, stuck in the middle Cardinals. No, go out and I'm not suggesting that like you have to go out and sign Kyle Tucker to a $500 million contract, but maybe trade a player or two that like fans would be pissed about, but it gives the Cardinals a new and genuine, interesting direction. Give us something to talk about. Give us a little sizzle that is going to generate some fan interest, because at this point, sitting on your hands, the status quo is not good enough anymore. And to further lament that, like, the Cardinals fans have spoken, right? Not only with their words online, but also with their wallets. Fans are not showing up to the stadium anymore. This is not only is it not Cardinals baseball on the field anymore, but it's also not a Cardinals baseball atmosphere at the ballpark. There is not a Cardinals fan feel buzz around the team any longer. So what I want is to give us a little bit of excitement, a little bit of sizzle, some boldness. Give us something to talk about, please. Gabe, go ahead with your superlative. Let's jump into that.
So it's kind of related to most improved and kind of related to biggest disappointment, unless you want to go in a positive direction. Biggest surprise of this season for a player.
And you want me to go first?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Biggest surprise this year. Who did I not see coming? I did not see Willson Contreras being as good of a first baseman as he was this season. That was the biggest surprise, I think, to me. Not that I didn't have faith that he was going to be as good as he was, but that obviously we just hadn't seen it. And so I think that Willson Contreras being as good, he was like a +6 outs above average, I believe, off the top of my head, at first base this year, which is, one of the best in the league. And so not only do you have, a 120 plus OPS or WRC plus hitter, but you also have a +6 outs above average first baseman. That as a whole package should be very enticing to teams around the league, if not the team that he is currently still on. And so I didn't know exactly what to expect from him transitioning from catcher to first base, and in a positive way surprised me, that he was able to be that effective in that first year in a transition.
I honestly, maybe I was just oblivious. I was really surprised by Ivan Herrera. and his ability, just like he's so consistent with his swing. I don't think he ever went into like there was one kind of prolonged slump that was maybe 20 at bats or something like that. But other than that, I always had confidence in him, and I just that must not have just given him the like attention he deserved before that. So I went from being like, okay, he's a good story to now someone that I'm like, okay, he should be here for a while.
Heather, your biggest surprise this year?
Springfield Cardinals winning Texas League championship.
Woo! Go Andy Carrolls!
That's
Yay!
pretty cool. Yeah, that's all I
right,
got.
cool.
I think you guys
All right.
kind of nailed it. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add.
Perfect.
Matthew Liberatore. I was surprised nobody said Matthew Liberatore.
He was.
I wasn't until he was announced as a starting pitcher out of spring training. I thought he was in the bullpen for sure this year, and I didn't think he had like a basically league average season as a starter. I didn't see that coming this year. I'm pleasantly surprised. If anybody answered him, I would have pivoted to Nathan Church, just by virtue of he wasn't a prospect at all before this season, in my opinion.
Sure,
he wasn't on the
radar. Yeah.
No, and now all of a sudden he's an elite defender who, at least in AA and AAA, he hit. We'll see if he can in the major league level.
If you could go multiple routes with this too, is like I just went with Willson Contreras because once again it was just the biggest surprise to me. Liberatore was a good option. I think that Eric Fetty being as bad as he was a surprise in a negative way. I think that Matt Swanson was a positive surprise. Didn't really know what to expect. I think that generally the arms that came up from AAA were positive, and so I don't know whether that was a surprise or not, but I thought that it went over about as well as you could have hoped for. Whether that was surprising or not, that's kind of your determination. But once again, thank you guys for showing up, for being here. That'll do it for the 2025 season. We're looking towards the off season, and there are going to be so many interesting topics to talk about. If you listen to those who have their ear to the ground and are very in tune with the Cardinals, they predict a very active and productive offseason from the Cardinals. So we certainly should have a lot of things to talk about, and you can get all of that great coverage here with not only the various guests that we will have on the show throughout the offseason, but also our brilliant takes that you can always depend on. For writers Scott Plaza and Gabe Simons and site manager Heather Simon, I am your host, Jake Wood. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys again next week. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Viva Alberto's podcast. Please leave a rate and review on your favorite platform and turn on those bell notifications so you can be notified the moment our newest episode is released. As always, make sure to give us a follow on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Facebook. Just type in Viva Alberto's on any platform to find us. Have a great day and thanks for listening.